The Fabrikator Mini advertises that it can only print PLA plastic, but I bet it can print ABS. It's Filament Friday. Let's print something and find out. My miter saw needed an adapter for the vacuum hose, so I thought this was a perfect project to test out ABS plastic. So now I need to design the adapter. So I opened up Tinkercad and I set the grid spacing to 80 by 80 to match the Fabrikator Mini. Then I brought the ruler in so I can make measurements easily. And then I brought in a cylinder and set it to 41 by 41 millimeters, and this will fit the hole, and I made it 15 millimeters high. Then I put the workspace on top of that and brought another cylinder in. This will be the cylinder that I'll insert the vacuum hose into. So I made that 35 by 35 millimeters and 30 millimeters tall. And I just kind of moved it into place. It doesn't have to be exact yet. Then I brought in a half sphere, and I'm going to use this to connect the two pieces for extra strength and overlap so I've got a lip. So I made this slightly bigger than the bottom at 42 millimeters in diameter. And then I added one more cylinder, and this time made it into a hole and made it much bigger. First I made the diameter 31.5 and then brought it way up so it was taller than the whole structure, and then dropped it down so the hole went all the way through what I was building. So now it was ready to align, so I clicked on Adjust, Align, and I aligned everything in the X and Y direction, and now it was ready to just group together, and I had my adapter. So this looked pretty good, so I was ready to export the .stl file and send it off to Repetier so I could print it on the Fabrikator Mini. So I brought it into Repetier, sliced it at a 0.2 layer height, 50% fill, and ABS settings, which was 210 degrees C. Then I sliced it with Cura, and it said it would take 4 hours and 20 minutes and 4.5 meters of plastic. Now, since the Fabrikator Mini doesn't have a heated bed, I figured I'd try out this build tack material I've heard so much about. It's supposed to make it stick to the bed better. So I cut a piece out of a 10 by 10 sheet that I had, and then it's got a sticky back. So all you need to do is peel off the protective layer, and then you can just line this up and just stick it down to the bed of the Fabrikator Mini. Just make sure you don't have any air bubbles, so start at one end and then just push across. Now, did this work a whole lot better than the blue tape? I don't know. I actually printed ABS on both of them, and in both cases I end up using a little bit of glue. So I started it as a time lapse and realized I had black filament on a black base, so it was hard to see. So I just changed it to overexposure so you can see it build here. It printed really well. It looked like it was coming out really, really good. And when it was done, it popped right off the bed. And as I looked it over, there was a few signs of some splitting at the seams, but very little. Overall, this looked like a really good print. Now, to print this for its best strength for what I was doing, I should have printed it on its side, but I didn't want to print with supports. So to get the strength back, what I did is I used some nail polish remover that was 100% acetone. Then I got a brush and I wore some rubber gloves to protect my fingers from getting all gooey. And then what I did is I just layered on the acetone and I just brushed it, but I did it perpendicular to the layers. And what this does is while you're brushing, you're actually softening the plastic and pushing it against each other so it forms a strong outer layer. And then I did the same thing on the inside. So I just went back and forth inside and outside just brushing on this thing, and I could feel it getting sticky and I could see the edges just smoothing right out. And then once I was done, I just let it dry. So I could tell just by holding it the acetone worked. It felt a lot stronger. And then as I pushed it in the hole, which it just barely fit, it was just perfect, I could feel it was stronger. And it went all the way down to that lip I created. So now, just to make it more permanent, there's a hole on each side of it in the miter saw for a screw. So I got out my drill and I drilled just slightly smaller than these self-tapping screws that I had for it. So I drilled on one side, then I came around and drilled on the other, and it went right into that plastic, and I didn't feel any splitting. I pulled it back out actually and looked at it, and everything looked good. It drilled right through that 50% fill, just perfect. So then I put the screws in place, and then with a Phillips screwdriver, all I had to do was tighten them up. Now I didn't over torque these because I didn't want anything to crack, but it was amazing how tight I could get it. The plastic held up really, really well. So now the real test, will it work? Well, the hose fit perfect, and then once I unlocked the saw, I could see that it moved with the saw exactly the way I wanted. I actually cut some wood with it, and the vacuum worked great. So this is a great solution. So there you have it. ABS plastic printed on the Fabrikator Mini. I continue to be impressed by this little printer. It's amazing for the low cost price that it is. And yeah, it doesn't have a heated bed and it doesn't have a big print area, but it hasn't stopped me so far. I'm having a lot of fun with this thing. Now I'd like to try other plastics and see how far I can take it. Now I did learn one thing. If I ran it faster than the 11 millimeters per second speed that it's recommended, I occasionally would get clogging in the hot end, and I had to get in there and clean that thing out. Now the nice thing is the nozzle unscrews, so I could unscrew it, clean it out, and put it back in place. That's something I couldn't do on these bigger machines. So I recommend, if you're going to try this, keep the speed lower. Now another advantage to that is you get better prints. It takes longer, but you get better prints. And also that technique of putting the acetone on the plastic, that really seemed to help a lot. That really stiffened up that print quite a bit. So if you like what I'm doing with this thing and you want to see more, just let me know in the comments below. The build tack material, it was okay. There was a couple prints that I tried since then that I actually had to put some glue down in order to make it stick. So I think it helped, just not as much as I'd hoped. But obviously I can get ABS to stick good enough for the prints on this machine. So if you want to help support the channel, you like things like this, please consider donating $1 to my Patreon account. Every little bit helps, and it helps me fund the projects that are going on around here and maybe buy some even more special plastic than I've done in the past. That's all I've got for now. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you like my channel and you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. That tells me you're watching. I'll see you next time.